Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. Sorry about the late start there. There was some technical difficulties setting up the stream, but we're here for the paper talk this morning on what can only be described as Tuesday the 19th of May. How's everyone doing at home? I had a good night's sleep last night. Don't you wake up with a spring in your step? Autofocus, go on. There we go, good lad. Spring in my step this morning. We've got some news about Kalidou Koulibaly coming out of Italy. We're going to be talking about United's making some youth signings from Fletcher Moss again, and we're also going to be making a little attempt to sort of decipher what is going on with this June the 19th restart to the Premier League. All of that coming up today. How's everyone doing at home, first of all? Sorry again about being late. You know what it's like these days, traffic on the interstate, or whatever they call it. Hello, here we go, hello, exactly, morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Talking about Coulibaly then, let's get into this story. And this is coming from, it's coming from Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy via the Express. So, what does that mean? That means the Express are reporting someone else's story. That also means that, you know, the Express are not necessarily the most reliable, but again, we take all that into account here. We're not trying to tell you anything that isn't the truth. We're going to get to the news. We're going to tell you how true it is, and we're going to go from there. So again, this has come from the Express. Man United's Kalidou Koulibaly transfer plan as Liverpool contemplate signing. Getting two names in the title there, so more fans read the article. Liverpool and United fans both reading this one now. We know what you're doing, Daily Express. Manchester United are ready to reignite their interest in Kalidou Koulibaly after learning of Liverpool's interest in the Napoli star. That doesn't make sense as a sentence, first of all, because so we go, we don't want him anymore. Well, they want him. No, we want him. I've said this before. It's like when you break up with your ex because you're like, you know what, I just don't fancy her anymore. And then you're like, your mate starts fancying you, like, no, I still fancy her. She's still my missus, really, so you can't have her. You're like, what? Like, we only want him because Liverpool want him. Get a backbone, guys. Reports say Solskjaer rates the centre-back highly, deeming him to be in the same calibre as Harry Maguire and Virgil van Dijk, and he could be available for a cheaper fee at the end of the season. United boss Solskjaer was tipped to sign Coulibaly last summer after the Napoli star had been named in the Serie A team of the season. In the end, that didn't happen, with the Red Devils choosing to fork out $80 million on Maguire instead. United have remained fleetingly linked in the time since, but Liverpool has emerged as a potential suitor. But the Italian newspaper Gazzetta dello Sport claim United are ready to reignite their interest and sign the 28-year-old. It said they made a bid for the Senegal international last summer of £89 million, which would have made him the most expensive defender on the planet. This time around, though, Napoli could sell for less. Now, what do we think? First of all, do we think there's any truth in this? I think I'm relatively certain United were interested in Coulibaly in the past. But I think it was this ludicrous price tag that Napoli had put on him. Napoli had sort of worked themselves into this kind of almost Dortmund-esque space in Europe, where they kind of occupy this. People can enjoy watching them because they're a good team and they play good football. They don't really win many trophies, and they sell their players for loads of money. That was, I think, what Napoli were trying to do under Maurizio Sarri. Obviously, then Sarri went to Chelsea. Napoli got in Ancelotti, things went downhill, and I think this sort of price that they were holding over Koulibaly's head, or they were suggesting to United for Coulibaly, I think it was like 100 million, 120 million or something ridiculous they wanted for him, which is just stupid, isn't it? That is not conducive to value for any side, I don't think. You know, he's 28 years old, I think he's 29 now, he will be 29 soon. He was 27 last year, just about to turn 28. And the idea that you'd pay 100 million quid for, you know, what is essentially a 28-year-old then, or is essentially a 29-year-old now, just seems ridiculous to me. I think also Napoli's stock in terms of, you know, their sort of standing across Europe seems to have fallen quite significantly in the last 18 months. A lot of their players aging. Dries Mertens, 32 years old, coming to the end of his contract this summer. Lorenzo Insigne is, I think he's 28, 29 now. A lot of these young sort of, not young, but these players that kind of took Europe by storm a couple of years ago when they were playing this brilliant football and they nearly won the league. A lot of that lustre seems to have died down in the last 18 months or so. And I think with that comes a little bit of their sort of bargaining power, where you kind of go, well, hang on a sec, what are you doing anyway? You know, you don't need 120 million because it's going to take you more than that to rebuild your squad. So we'll give you 60. You'll be happy with that. You can probably get someone good in. If you're used to finishing 5th, Napoli, you can probably get Martin Skirtle or something for that, and you'll be happy with that. So I know it doesn't quite work like that, but the sort of this team that were playing so well and could show their players off to be the best possible versions of themselves, now all of a sudden seems to have these weaknesses. You sort of see Coulibaly exposed a little bit in the Champions League occasionally, and I just think it's taken that sort of pristine edge off of Coulibaly and kind of taking him down a notch in terms of his sort of social standing, if you will. I know that, again, it all sounds a little bit silly, but I think just Milinkovic-Savic would be another good example of that. A couple of years ago, he came out the blocks brilliantly for Lazio. Look, 100 million quid was being talked, 90 million quid. They wanted the same as what Juventus got for Pogba for him. And now Milinkovic-Savic, he doesn't. I think you could probably get him for almost half of what he was being touted for a couple of years ago. And I think the same can be said for Coulibaly at the moment. Someone's saying love from Mumbai, love from Northern Quarter, mate. I don't see more than one statement signing. Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Napoli are the hipster team of the Italian league, exactly like Dortmund are in Germany. But they've just lost a little bit of that, je ne sais quoi, I believe. Someone says, V quiet, Joe. Okay, well, let's turn it up a little bit then. How about one of these ones? That's more like it, isn't it? That's too loud. There we go. That's nice. That's nice. I wondered if it was going to be slightly quiet, but hopefully I haven't, broken anyone's ears with that one. What do you think to Coulibaly? Do we want him? Do we need him? Do we need another centre-back? It seems clear. There have been a lot of reports across multiple different outlets that United are interested in a centre-back. Whether that has to be postponed to next season now with everything that's going on, whether, if a potential move for Sancho doesn't materialise, that could be brought forward to this summer. I think United have clearly got, I think we want a central midfielder, I think we want a defensive midfielder, I think we want a centre-back, and I think we want a winger and a striker. It seems as though those are the 5 positions that United are discussing most sort of publicly, and I say publicly, these sorts of rumours are being linked and leaked to the more reliable sects of journalists. So I think, they're not trying to hide. United clearly want a striker. United clearly want Jadon Sancho. United clearly want a midfielder. United seemingly want a centre-back as well, and I wonder if this sort of hierarchy of importance of those transfers is a kind of interchangeable, swappable feast, a movable feast, if you will, that depends on the availability of the other people they want in those different positions. So, like I said, if Sancho ain't coming this summer, get Coulibaly instead, we'll get Sancho next summer. Hopefully, there is a kind of a set structure that's been sort of ploughed on with, despite, or, as well as alongside the current difficulties that we're seeing at the moment. Confused why we aren't hearing any rumours about City. They clearly need to be strong in the market. Every player we're linked to, Chelsea has been mentioned too. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, in fairness, I'm not looking for Manchester City transfer news. And those things don't pop up on my Twitter feed or on my news feeds because I don't follow particularly too many City fans. I'll never follow a City fan, but most of the news I get and most of the information I see is me looking for Manchester United stories because that's what I'm interested in. So I'm sure they have been linked with plenty of people, but it does seem as though all the ones we're linked with are either linked with Liverpool in Coulibaly, Werner, etc., or Chelsea in Sancho, etc. again. Bellingham, I'm linked with Chelsea a little bit as well. So yeah, it does seem as though we're kind of fighting Chelsea for all our targets at the moment, or Liverpool. 5 positions seems too much. This squad is not that bad if you keep Pogba. I'm not saying that we've got 5 positions that are terrible at the moment that all need replacing immediately, but I think they're the positions that we've been linked with players from outlets where you'd kind of go, oh well, if they're saying it, then we probably are interested in a player from that position. We definitely want a right winger. We know that, Jadon Sancho. We definitely want a striker. We know that because we signed Igalo on a short-term deal that is going to run out in the summer, and then the want and need for a striker that was there before we got Igalo will come back again. So those 2 are certain. I think we definitely want a central midfielder. The links with Grealish and Maddison, and I think it's relatively certain that United are interested or have been interested in Jack Grealish. The defensive midfielder is the only one where it's kind of been a maybe wishful thinking a little bit from some of the fans because we see a weakness in that area. But then again, a centre-back is one that's been reported by The Athletic, by David Ornstein, by Laurie Whitwell over at The Athletic as well. So I think those 4 positions are almost certain. It's just whether we are interested in a defensive midfielder. But I think we do want to sign players in those positions, and I think we will probably pick the best we can of any of those players whenever they become available. Let's go on to our second story today then, and this is a quick one. We've got 3 stories today, so it's going to have to be quick. There we go. Fletcher Moss signings, and this is kind of one of those things that a lot of people will know in and around Manchester. It's a club that I'd heard of, but was not particularly aware of until I moved to Manchester. But we'll get into that. Manchester United signed 6 youngsters from Marcus Rashford's old club. United and City have signed some talented youngsters from youth club Fletcher Moss Rangers. 7 youngsters will hope to follow in the footsteps of Manchester United striker Marcus Rashford after making the step up to the academy football from Fletcher Moss Rangers. United and Neighbour City have signed 7 under 9 players, from the Fletcher Moss club, which has developed the likes of Rashford, Lingard, Welbeck, Wes Brown. It's kind of one of those sort of famous. People say infamous all the time, but isn't that meant to be a bad thing? It's kind of one of those sort of a notorious club from around the Manchester area because of the likes of, like it says there, Rashford, Lingard, Welbeck, Wes Brown, who have come from there. And it's got, like there's those kind of feeder clubs almost, and it's not the same because I don't think there's any official link to the club, but it's one of those where every so often you get a crop coming through through Fletcher Moss. It seems to be quite a common kind of route. It's a well tapped sort of, what do they call it? Tapping a tree, don't know, to get the maple syrup out of it. That kind of thing. They get a lot of players from there, is what I'm trying to tell you. And it's quite a well-known thing in and around the Manchester area that Fletcher Moss is this sort of famous club or infamous club where you get young players from, basically. So it's good that United are obviously looking at, it's under 9s as well. How can you even tell? I was like 4-footing when I was under 9. Probably was quite a good player then, by the way. But yeah, under 9s, I guess that's when they start recruiting 7, 8 years old, which is just insane, isn't it, that you can even tell anything about. I don't think I knew which foot I kicked the ball with when I was that age. But again, you have to get them as young as possible, I guess, because why wouldn't you? You get the more years of training you can have as a kid, the better you're going to be. So I guess it makes sense, but just a sort of a nice kind of continued tradition of these players coming from these local clubs, as you would expect. It kind of almost seems like a bit twee and a bit naff that you just get players from local clubs. But of course, where else are you going to get them from? Do you know what I mean? It seems like this old-fashioned, like, come on, lad, you're going to play for Manchester United. But of course, where else? United need to get under 9s from somewhere, and it's going to be the local clubs, isn't it? You just sort of have it in your head of the first team where they buy in all players from Spain, France, Portugal, Italy, all that lot, and you think, well, they're probably just buying in 8-year-olds from around the world, the best 8-year-olds in the world, when really some of the best 8-year-olds in the world are playing in Manchester anyway. So, yeah, just exciting and a nice continued tradition there. The lads could obviously still live at home and still use our training facilities. I guess you're talking about. I can't see what your question was, Sam. I can see you asked me to answer your question, but it's too far back in the comments and I can't find it. Sorry about that. I put it again and I'll answer it if it's not obscene or rude. Let's move on to our last story then, while that's getting sorted. We've got a date, lads. We've got a date. We kind of knew this was coming yesterday, but it has been confirmed after yesterday's paper talk in the morning that football is leaving home. Football's leaving home. Is that a headline somewhere? Right, write that down. That's a great headline. Sorry, I need to write that down. Football's leaving home. There's your headline, lads. Brilliant. Can't write that down, it takes too long. But yeah, football's leaving home as we see a return to training today. There's got to be some training pics coming out today. I want to see Bruno passing the ball to Pogba. I want to see Rashford. I don't know, is Rashford completely ready to be training properly yet? I don't know if he's ready to be doing team stuff, but he's in and around the picture for that sort of thing, isn't he? Sam says, do you think we should buy a Lancashire EFL club and send them our youth for free with a £0 buyback clause? As there's loan restrictions, they'd get proper footy experience. I don't know enough about the logistics and the rules around football teams like that. What I did used to like is that United had a sort of feeder club thing with was it Royal Antwerp? There's a club in Belgium anyway, I can't remember who it was now. I think it might have been Antwerp, where we used to send and give players to. I've spoke about that on the youth review before with Dave Pritt, where you would send youngsters or you'd send players coming through the academy to get first team experience in another country and playing a slightly higher level than you would, which was at the time under, I think it was under 90. Oh, they used to have more leagues, didn't they? Under 21s maybe. And I used to like that as an idea, but they stopped doing that, and I'm not quite sure why they did that. So I'm not sure, and I don't know enough about the logistics of setting up a club, sending players out on loan, bringing them back, how that would affect different clubs, what the sort of response to that would be. I don't really know, but I like the idea of having a place where United youngsters can go and get first team football at a slightly lower level. I think that's a good idea. So yes and no is the answer to that. Surprise inspections, GPS tracking and video analysis are methods that could be used to ensure clubs adhere to new safety guidance as they prepare for the resumption of the Premier League. Teams agreed to start non-contact training in small groups from Tuesday. Gradually we aim to ramp that up so that we can have an inspector at every training ground. That will enable us to give confidence to the protocols that are being complied with. He added, we are looking at bringing in our own independent audit inspection as we scale up. This is according to Richard Garlick, by the way, who leaves a bad taste in the mouth. We're looking at bringing in our own independent audit inspection team that will scale up over the next few days, which will give us the ability to have inspections at training grounds to start with on a no-notice basis. So it's basically like drugs tests or something like that. They just turn up. Have you been touching each other? No. All right, we're going to test these 3 players for fingerprints. Take your clothes off. We're going to test you for fingerprints. If you've got any of your teammates' fingerprints on you, you're all going to jail. He said, we would try and do it unless it wasn't possible because of safety concerns. Right. So they might not do it. At the meeting, the Premier League clubs agreed to stage 1 of the return to training protocols, as well as training in small groups of no more than 5. Sessions must last longer than 75 minutes. Must last no longer than 75 minutes for each player. Social distancing must be adhered to. However, BBC Sport revealed that a survey of 138 Premier League and English Football League doctors and physiotherapists found more than half do not fully understand their roles, responsibilities and potential liabilities regarding a return to training. The Premier League said that a first stage has been agreed in consultation with players, managers, club doctors, independent experts and the government. The league had previously identified 12th of June matches to possibly start again, but there is now an expectation that this will need to be pushed back. So we're looking at probably June the 19th. They're not allowed to touch each other in training. You would assume before games are played that we are allowed some sort of contact. Can you really expect Aaron Wan-Bissaka to not have tackled another human being for what will have been 4.5 months? What do you think he's doing? Do you think he's like setting up cones in his garden and just slide tackling them? Because there's no way Aaron Wan-Bissaka can be in training and not slide tackle people. I feel sorry for the lad. Interesting. What do you make of the Souness comments? Yeah, talking about how he would just play even if he had coronavirus and not tell anyone. I mean, that's criminal, isn't it? That is literally criminal, I think. Having a virus that is... Being in contact with people when you knowingly have a deadly virus, I think is attempted murder, isn't it? I don't know the rules of it, but say what you want about him. That is a stupid and ignorant and idiotic thing to say. Interesting. Supposedly a player catching COVID can cause irreversible career-ending lung damage. It's not, it's obviously not without its risks, all of this, is it? And again, these are the wishes and the wills of a huge multi-billion pound corporation and set of corporations in the Premier League. So it's not really up to us, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where usually companies with loads of money who do things that the public don't want are doing it for themselves, and they are now. But this has the added benefit, the slight benefit that we also would quite like to watch the football. There is obviously severe risks with all this. There's chances that this goes horribly wrong if a full team or one player from a team plays against another team and the whole 22 players get coronavirus and these long-lasting effects that we still don't know about, by the way, because this has only been around for 4 months or 6 months. This disease has only existed for about 6 or 7 months. So we don't know what the long-term effects of it are, but the greed and the excitement and, let's get back to work mentality that is being pushed, that is usually pushed on the faces or into the faces of working class workers who, don't have much of a choice, at least when it's being pushed this time, we can sort of watch it and enjoy football. But really, it all seems too soon and a bit mental, doesn't it? But, you know, if there has to be any upside, at least we get to watch football. And now it's a very small upside and it's not worth the risk of human life, of course. Anyway. Hard man Souness will play with the illness. Yeah, exactly. There will be government inspectors at every training session and game to make sure the rules are followed and report back to the government, not the EPL. Okay. That's coming from Simon Cowie there. I mean, I'm reading from the BBC website, so I'm just going with what they're saying there. It's hard to know exactly what will happen, is it? I'm sure, that, again, this is one of those things where there'll be multiple different sections and different organisations who want to at least be seen to be making sure that the rules are being followed here. But like sort of stuff like boxing and UFC, they're back. And, you know, people are sparring and training and stuff. They're not doing social distancing. You can't fight with social distancing. The health and well-being of all participants is the Premier League's priority, and the safe return to training is a step-by-step process. So hopefully, or you would presume that in the next 3 to 4 weeks, as we build up for the games, I think it's 4.5 weeks basically from now till the 19th of May, which is 19th of June, which is obviously 1 month. But I think it's, you know, it'll be 4 weeks plus a Tuesday to Friday. So 4.5 weeks. I think over that time, the contact and the potential distancing and all that will get ramped up because we can't have not tackled someone for 4 months and then go and play a Premier League game. Surely. Right, that's going to be all from me today. We'll be back this afternoon for a podcast at 4 o'clock, so make sure you check that one out. Hope you all have a lovely day. Thank you very much for joining me in the comments. Someone says, hi Joe. I have joined the legend level with Stretford Paddock. How do I send my details to you guys? I'll get that sorted. I think there is, either on the Facebook page or in the YouTube, there is an email or something that you can send it to. But I'll make sure that gets sorted. Ado Foley, I'll follow that up straight after this. So look out for a message or something on YouTube there. Thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to become a member, like Ado Foley has done, please click the join button. You get extra stuff, extra content, extra videos, even a loot crate and fun merch stuff for the Legends tier as well. We're also this week going to be doing another FIFA. So if Ado Foley or anyone else who's in the Legends tier wants to play, join the Pro Clubs team. We played a few games on Xbox a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to be playing a few more this week. So if you want to do that, join the Legends tier and you can play with us and do all that sorts of fun stuff. And there's other tiers where you get other stuff. You get fun podcasts, you get behind the scenes videos, you get all sorts of good stuff, and it helps the channel as well. So if you want to do that, please do. Once again, thanks for joining me. Come back at 4 o'clock for the Paddock podcast. See you next time.